Hi, and welcome to All Kinds of Minds, a podcast dedicated to celebrating neurodiversity in our world. My name is James Valetti, and I volunteer for Welcome Neurodiversity as their head of podcast. On today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Rebecca Podsednik, the Director of Programming at Lincoln Center. Rebecca plays a key role in shaping the center's programming and is deeply involved with the upcoming Big Umbrella Festival, which takes place April 4th through the 20th at Lincoln Center. This festival, which is a celebration of neurodiversity, is a testament to the organization's unwavering commitment to inclusivity in the arts. We'll discuss the festival's unique offerings, exploring how it creates accessible and engaging spaces for all audiences. We hope to shed some light on the collaborative efforts that bring such impactful events to life and how it can serve as a model for creating truly unique cultural spaces. Enjoy. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today on All Kinds of Minds. I really appreciate your being here.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So you're the Director of Programming at Lincoln Center, which is no small feat, huge job. So I'm so thrilled that you're here. And you guys are doing some programming this season that I think will be really interesting to a lot of our listeners. So tell us about the Big Umbrella Festival for those who don't know what it is and when and where we can enjoy it.
Absolutely. So Big Umbrella Festival will happen both online, but mostly on our campus this upcoming April. So the in-person events will be April 4th through April 20th, and the online events will be on April 3rd. And we have a range of experiences and opportunities and hopefully lots of ways that people can engage and respond to what feels best to them. So we have a beautiful outdoor interactive installation. We have performances in one of our big halls, which is amazing. We also have two of our smaller spaces. We'll have performances in our atrium space. We'll have things from one of our constituents, the Chamber Music Society, and we're working with the Real Abilities Film Festival again. And so there's a lot of varying ways to join us. Everything is free or choose what you pay. And so we're hoping that at least a ticket price is one of the barriers we're removing to access the work, but also once audiences are here, that we're creating spaces that feel most welcoming, where people can really engage in ways that are best for them. So the opportunity to move through in and around any of the experiences will feel comfortable and inviting.
Perfect. So it's essentially a festival of arts programming for neurodivergent audience members and performers. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Awesome.
Also very multi-generational. So it's work that kind of leans younger. We have work for teens and young adults. We have multi-generational activations. So also that there's a range of options there with age range too.
That's fantastic. So how did the festival start and when?
The festival started in 2018. That was the first ever Big Umbrella Festival. It was a giant month-long celebration. It was very, very beautiful. Lincoln Center was the first major cultural institution to create a festival of that duration and really lifting up work for, at that time, it was branded as Big Umbrella for audiences with autism and their families. And we've since expanded that language to be representative of neurodiversity. And so the work itself that year was really focused. The anchor pieces were small capacity, interactive, multisensory experiences. And one of the anchor pieces was a work called Up and Away by Trusty Sidekick Theater Company. And that was a Lincoln Center Education Commission originally in 2015, and it had a beautiful run in our Clark Studio Theater. And building upon the great success of that wonderful work, Lincoln Center decided to celebrate even more opportunities and create this festival. So 2018 was the first one, and then we came back again in 2021 after a bit of a pause because of everything going on in the world.
And now it's considered part of the regular programming, right? Like you guys are going to be doing this every year now for the foreseeable future, right?
That's right. And it's multiple times a year, Big Umbrella specifically. So we have this very celebratory takeover day as part of Summer for the City, which is this major festival that has hundreds of events that we put on now every June through August and Big Umbrella Days in July. Then we also have this multi-week activation happening in April. So that's Big Umbrella's like concentrated times. But we have an entire season of programming that we are intentionally working to make spaces that are welcoming to audiences who identify as being neurodiverse and creating environments in which audiences feel supported. So relaxed performances across our campus with ourselves and with our constituents continues to grow and expand. And we have a passport season with our accessibility team and a moment season for older audiences with memory care. And so there's a lot of different ways of activation throughout the year that happens indoor and outdoor on our campus too, and online.
I think that's so cool. And I always felt like Lincoln Center was kind of the national theater of the US, if that makes sense. Like, I know it's different in funding and all that kind of stuff, but it's just such a reputable, like the top theater company, in my opinion, one of the top theater companies in all of the US. So to see so much accessibility programming and so much programming for people who are neurodivergent is incredible. And I think a really big testament to the movement of inclusivity in the country and in the arts, which I think is great. So are there any core philosophies that guide the selection process or what you're picking for the performances? Do you work with people who are neurodivergent to fashion the part, like the season or the festival, I should say?
Yeah, so we have a few different threads that keep helping us solve the programmatic range of ideas and puzzles that we have to navigate, including budget and space and all those elements. But really, what we're looking for from a programmatic perspective is at its heart spaces that are intentionally welcoming. So representation and how we're opening doors for our audiences, but also for artists, and celebrating a range of options so people can lean into something that is very multi-sensory if they want to. If it's more someone that may be more sensory averse, that there's an option for that as well. And then in addition to the performing and programmatic things that are happening on our stages and in our performance spaces, that there are all the additional supports outside of that too for our artists and our audiences. So there's the chill out areas. We always have a visual art station if someone wants to take a sensory break, but be interacting with a tactile experience. And we're trying to increase representation in our food offerings and how we're celebrating neurodiverse companies who are creating like in the food and beverage space and how we can lift up their work during all of our activations. And so that's really amazing and wonderful. And then as the work itself expands on our stages, I think we're continuing to try to learn from others in the field, try to learn every time we have one of these events. We learn from our artists, we learn from our audiences, so it can continue to inform the work going forward. But I think utilizing Lincoln Center's campus in particular is really a wonderful element that we can uniquely provide, including a giant outdoor installation that's really amazing and wonderful. That is a newer addition to what we're doing as we look to help welcome even more audiences to something they can just show up to. They don't have to tell us in advance. And there's this beautiful tactile experience, and you can interact with it if you want to, or you can just experience it passively. That's really amazing. The piece in Tully Hall this year is a Peruvian company doing a version of Hamlet, an adaptation of Hamlet. And that will be our first ever Spanish language performance as part of Big Umbrella. It will be fully captioned in English as well. We'll have audio description alongside the performance, and it is for older audiences. So that is, I think, a growth area for Lincoln Center in general, is to have dedicated events for teens and young adults in this space, because much of the work that we're hearing about and that we're experiencing when we try to source work for Big Umbrella does tend to kind of go younger. And so really celebrating and amplifying with real abilities to work that is intentionally for older audiences. And so we're very excited to go into Tully with this version of Hamlet, and that will be on the last weekend of the festival. So I have 2 shows on the 19th with them.
I'm super excited about that one. And the fact that it's all free or pay what you can is really I mean, it opens it up to all kinds of audiences, and audiences who I'm sure would never necessarily think to go to a sensory-friendly performance or have never been to a sensory-friendly performance before. So for audiences like that who've never been to a sensory-friendly performance, what is that? What can they expect? What would you tell them as first-timers?
Our current way of talking about the work is really to share that we aren't changing the artistic content of the piece. We're celebrating the artistic work as it is, and we're shifting the social environment and the social expectations so that everyone can engage in ways that are most comfortable to them. So we share in advance a visual guide of our main points, not only about how to get here, but like, here are some key moments in the performance. Here's where you can access the chill out space. Here's where you can reach out to us if you need any sensory supports, headphones, fidgets, those kinds of things. And also that we're here for you. So our staff is fully present and we're available to support in any ways that are helpful. And then while audiences are on site with us, to make a dedicated announcement that says, we are here in community together. This is an intentionally relaxed space. This is not a shushing zone. If you need to move around in the show, you are more than welcome to do so. The lights will be kept at a safe level, so you can do that freely. There's been a few examples. We haven't incorporated it here, but we've been talking about it a lot, that some festivals have started to include in that pre-show announcement as examples to the audience. This is the loudest sound you'll hear in the show, and then the sound cue goes. And then
Cool.
This is the darkest the lights will go in the show, and then they make the light cue go. And this is the haze. This is the effect of a haze in if it happens to have haze, for example. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really beautiful addition to how we're creating that welcoming speech, which it's very informative, but can feel a little bit like, okay, I'm continuing to listen to it. And so I love that idea about the sensory part of the pre-show announcement too.
That's really interesting. I've never been to a performance like that where they've included that. Do you have any favorite pieces from Big Umbrella Festivals past, or anything that like really stands out as particularly impactful?
I do love these outdoor experiences, I have to say. That's been one of my favorite things to move through and help bring here. But my personal favorite of all the time was from the first ever festival, which was the Up and Away piece I mentioned earlier. It was this incredible, joyful experience where you moved through the space together. Everyone, you sort of sat in your own balloon with like your loved ones or your family unit or the people you came to the show with, and everyone got to go on a hot air balloon ride. I still remember the songs, to be honest. I thought it was just an incredible representation of what multisensory theatrical experience can be, and that was extremely welcoming, and that's been one of my favorite pieces ever. Yeah,
that's so cool. Any plans to bring that one back ever, do you think?
Not in the moment, not right now.
Yeah, I missed it.
No, yeah, it was really wonderful. And it was a New York-based company, which Lincoln Center does get to really celebrate a lot of the international work that's happening, but also lifting up and celebrating a local company who dedicated years developing this piece very thoughtfully, very intentionally, working with young people throughout the process to learn how the development's going and then inform their own practice, working with experts in the field. So it was great.
That's awesome. So you mentioned Real Abilities. We had Isaac Zablocki, the CEO and founder of Real Abilities, on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
he was
wonderful.
Amazing. It was great. And I think that it's wonderful that it's the largest disability film festival in the world, that they're a part of your programming this year. What specifically are they doing?
This is the first time we're putting it as part of our April Big Umbrella Festival, but Comedy Night for the Real Abilities Film Festival is a tradition. And so to bring it here is very exciting. Our timelines are unique to one another because in the middle of when we're putting the final touches on the press release and how we're announcing our programming, they're also in the final moments of curating their selection for that particular year's film festival. And so it's this wonderful opportunity of collaboration between both organizations to brainstorm like what feels good this year, what kind of is resonant for what they're looking to celebrate and curate themselves, and also what we're in the middle of curating for our own events. So this year we landed on the comedy night, which is really fun. And so that'll be that Friday, the 4th. And then the day before, our virtual event will also be with Real Abilities. And we're doing a virtual dance, crip movement, like class/work.
Yeah, I think I saw that on the website. I think that's awesome. I didn't realize that was also part with Real Abilities.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're really participating in two ways. You guys are overlapping, I should say, in two things. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. And we've been working with Real Abilities for years now. And so it's always, we really love working with them. So we look forward to more collaborations in the future as well.
Cool. And are there any other organizations besides Real Abilities that have been particularly instrumental in the Big Umbrella Festival in the past that you want to give a shout out to and our listeners could look into?
Yes, I would love to shout out Music Not Impossible, which are these incredible haptic vests that were originally created, I believe, for outdoor music events, but we've celebrated their particular type of engagement in a variety of different venues and opportunities and events. So I love those. I really, really loved the experience of not only like on the wrists and the ankles, but how the music is impacting how the vest is vibrating. Like, I think haptic technology is really, really incredible. And so they've been a wonderful recurring collaborator with Lincoln Center, not just for Big Umbrella, but for a lot of our programming.
I also own and operate a silent disco business.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
So, there's technology that we've done a bunch of events for nonprofits and folks with autism and neurodiversity. And there are the vests and those kinds of haptic things that are just incredible that we can rent for events or buy. And I think it's great for people with sensory issues. So, and I think you guys do silent disco every summer too. Like that was part of my inspiration. Was it Midsummer Night's Swing or something you guys would always do and have silent disco as part of it?
Yes. Midsummer Night's Swing was a classic Lincoln Center element and out of doors, and so now we combined all of our summer programming under this banner of Summer for the City, and we're just pushing out as many social dance environments as we can. So including the lesson before the performance, sometimes always the silent disco after we 10 a.m. to midnight or whatever, however long. And it's so fun, I think, for audiences, as you said, who appreciate the sensory support that headphones can provide, the opportunity to have multi-channel headphones that can either move through two different DJs or two different types of sound that are happening on the stage, but also adjusting the volume. We've worked with Kevin Gotkin a few times for like an access silent disco, and Kevin's super creative about not only the descriptions that are happening alongside the disco experience, but how that is impacted on the channel. So if I want to hear more of a creative description to the type of movement and the type of sound that's happening, I can do that option, or I can go to like another channel or look on this type of screen for the actual lyrics to the songs. So there's a lot of, I think, unique ways that people are thinking through how we utilize the technology that is already available.
There's often a connection drawn between neurodivergent perspectives and creative innovation. In your experience with programming, how does neurodiversity contribute to the evolution and artistic expression of not only your programming, but just on a broader range in the arts? There's How to Dance in Ohio and all of these great shows.
I think the work is growing, and I think that's really the element that we want to participate in lifting up. And so creating spaces that are welcoming to neurodiverse artists and audiences is a priority, one of the priorities that Lincoln Center has committed to. And I think continuing to celebrate also what's happening locally, nationally, internationally is part of what we can do as an organization too. And so I think the fact that the Broadway run of How to Dance in Ohio happened is wonderful. I think putting a neurodiverse-centric performance on a Broadway stage in general is such a landmark event to occur. And so we've learned and recognized that people are celebrating this work in a lot of different ways. So even spaces that may not have a full season like we do and have the opportunity to do, they'll add in time in a run to have a sensory friendly version of a show, or they'll create an additional performance specifically welcoming audiences with disabilities. And so having that work grow, even as a moment in time, as part of their larger story, I think will continue to celebrate, and hopefully more work means more work, right? So
Yeah.
the more it happens, the more it can happen, and the more people see that as an opportunity for themselves to join, and also for institutions, organizations, companies, artists to include that as part of their artistic practice, I think is really lovely. And I think since 2018, we've seen growth for sure. And I look forward to where that goes in the future.
Definitely. And I remember, even things like Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Some of my favorite theater and artistic pieces have been created by or about people who are autistic or neurodivergent in some way or another. So I'm so glad that the Big Umbrella Festival has helped make it accessible, present the stories, tell the work. Rebecca, it's April 4th to the 20th, right? And people can get tickets and participate at lincolncenter.org, correct?
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so appreciative, and I look forward to seeing you at the festival.
I look forward to it as well. Thank you, James.